I'm a big proponent of therapy. I was very lucky when I was a young age that my parents thought, okay, she's going to be dealing with some not only physical challenges, emotional things that'll come along with it. Just having someone to talk to was really helpful. Surrounding myself with other people. Obviously, you can't choose your parents, but you can choose your friends and your colleagues and such, and people that would speak positivity into me.
This is Brandon Turner, and you are listening to the Average Joe Finances Podcast.
Welcome to the Average Joe Finances Podcast. Are you trying to get out of debt, invest, or just not sure where to start? Then this is the place for you. We discuss different ways to get out of the rat race and build your wealth. Join us on this wild ride to financial freedom.
Hey, welcome back to the Average Joe Finances Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Cavaggioni, and today's guest is Amy Sylvis. Amy, I'm super excited to have this conversation with you today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, this is so cool, Mike. Thank you so much for having me as well. What an honor.
Absolutely. No, the honor is mine. Speaking of that, we would like to know more about you. I'm going to start this off the same way I start every podcast episode. So if you could, please share with us your story. Who is Amy Sylvis?
Yes. So I am a 41-year-old woman living in Los Angeles, California with my amazing husband, Joel. Both of us were born and raised in this area, and our parents still live here. I came from a very humble lower middle class background. My father's almost 70 and still does manual labor as he did all of his life and all of my life. I've been really fortunate to have a bit of a biotech background that translated later on into being a real estate syndicator. And I am the founder and CEO of Sylvis Capital, which invests in large commercial real estate properties throughout the United States and emerging markets, and invites folks to take advantage of our research and our experience and invest alongside us.
All right, fantastic. So I think it's important to point out, you had mentioned your age at the very beginning, and I think it's important. There's an important reason why you mention your age, right? So I know that you were born with a rare medical condition, right? That it makes living to this age very complicated. I know that's got to be tough to talk about, or just a tough situation to bring up, but I think I'd like to talk about a little bit or touch a little bit on this, because I think this touches upon your positive attitude and your positive mindset that you have to be able to overcome some of these complications that you've had in life. We could just talk about that a little bit. What is it that you were born with?
Yes, thank you. I forget that it's not typical for a middle-aged woman to freely offer up her age, but I am quite proud to be 41 because I was born with cystic fibrosis. I find that most people have heard of that, but aren't quite sure exactly what it is. So what is it? It is a genetic condition that I was born with. Both my parents are silent carriers and passed on the illness to me unknowingly. And when I was born in 1981, I had this chronic cough and I wasn't gaining weight. And we received this diagnosis, and my parents were told I would live to be around 8 or 9 years old. I actually thought the statistic was 18 or 19, and my mom just corrected me over the weekend. She said it was 8 or 9 years old. To your point, I love talking about how old I am because this was not expected. The illness essentially has a defect where issues with my lungs, infection after infection, year after year, which led to weeks and weeks of hospitalizations that sometimes added up to months, year over year, and gradual deterioration of my lungs. It's been a bit of a wild ride, I'm not going to lie, but thankfully a miracle medication came to the market about 3 years ago and completely changed my health. So I'm extremely healthy now. Without a doubt, there were a lot of trials and tribulations that came along the way having cystic fibrosis, and it helped shape me though. So we can get into that if you'd like, but I'd love to share the story because I know everyone goes through things in life. So hopefully by sharing my story, that can encourage others.
Sure, absolutely. Now, you said this miracle drug came out about 3 years ago. So even up to 3 years ago, you were still suffering with those conditions and having to be hospitalized and all that?
Yes. Yeah. In fact,
Wow.
I had to medically retire in 2017 from my biotech career because I just became way too sick to hold down a W-2 job. So I was on disability, not something I ever wanted to have happen, but I was simply too sick to hold down a job. And yes, I was in and out of the hospital until right before COVID. Thank God we got this miracle medication right before the pandemic. You can imagine what that would have been like going through that without kind of a healthier set of lungs. But yeah, up until very recently, until I was 38, I was struggling quite a bit with my health.
Wow. And to struggle that long throughout your whole life. And I could tell right now, you're a very positive person just from this initial conversation and you seem very happy. And I feel like that plays a part in how you were able to overcome and stay strong and just fight back. And can we talk about that a little bit? Was there ever a time where you felt like, man, like, I don't know if I really want to do this anymore because this is too tough. This is too much, too many hospitalizations. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I think there were definitely times when it almost seemed ironically comical with how many struggles were put in my life. And obviously, this isn't an illness that I have because of choices I made in my life. It's just a circumstance. And yeah, things did get tough several times where I just thought, gosh, I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I wasn't interested in giving up necessarily, but would absolutely have moments where I just thought, I don't know where I'm going to find the strength or the willpower to say, yeah, sign me up for another day of this. And who knows what'll come behind, what will be around the corner. A progressive illness is wild because by definition, it's going to get tougher the longer that you live. Having mindset and having people around me to support me was really everything.
Yeah. And support from other people. And now, what was it about your mindset? How did you get yourself to stay positive through such obstacles?
A bunch of things. Without getting too corny, I'm a big proponent of therapy. I was very lucky when I was a young age that my parents thought, okay, she's going to be dealing with some not only physical challenges, emotional things that'll come along with it. Just having someone to talk to was really helpful. Surrounding myself with other people. Obviously, you can't choose your parents, but you can choose your friends and your colleagues and such. And people that would speak positivity into me, people that would remind me that there are such things as miracles. There are people that beat the odds, not just health-wise, but otherwise. Doctors aren't psychic. Science isn't always completely psychic. Obviously, I'm a huge benefactor of Western medicine, and I'm very grateful, but sometimes things turn out differently than we expect. So just really leaning into that and my faith as well helped my mindset and thus my physical health, I think, tremendously.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So some of the things I was writing down as you're talking about this is just that on that mindset piece, you were going to therapy early on, which was really good. You had somebody to talk to and vent some of these emotional frustrations that you were suffering from because of your physical condition. And then, but you made a very good point. You can't choose your family, right? But you can choose the people you surround yourself with, right? You could choose your contacts, your friends, who you build these relationships with. And you chose to surround yourself with positive, like-minded people that were going to lift you up and not hold you down. So I think that is absolutely huge. And I think that also is a big part of what you do as a real estate investor as well, is the people that you surround yourself with. I'd like to kind of transition the conversation to that because I feel like we know that your mindset is already there. Like you've already got a crushing mindset. So we're there. So let's move on to the actual real estate piece. And what made you decide to actually get into real estate? Was it the fact that you were medically retired in 2017? What did that look like?
As you can imagine, knowing that I wasn't sure how long I would live, but I also have this fiercely independent streak where I've always wanted to be self-reliant. My parents would kill me if I ever said this to their face, but I never wanted to be a financial burden on them. I wanted to see if as an adult, despite this illness, if I could find a way to support myself, pay all my bills, do all these things. So from the time I was in my early 20s, I was on this mad dash to figure out how to be self-supportive. In my 20s, it was trading my time for money, getting a bigger, badder job, getting my MBA, again, to be able to save more money for this, what felt like this inevitable train coming down the track of, I'm probably going to be too sick one day to work. So how am I going to make sure that I can continue to pay my bills? And then as I think maybe many people will resonate with this, I read this purple book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I went, oh, passive income. What a mindset. So what you're saying is while I'm in the hospital trying to get better from pneumonia, I could have property management, collecting rents for me and money coming in. So decoupling this trading time for money was such a blessing and an eye-opener. Now, it took me 10 years to get there, lots of trials and failures, but that was really the genesis of it. If I want to be able to be my own woman, be able to support myself and fund my lifestyle. And yeah, I had this looming health challenge that I thought would really prevent me, and eventually did, from trading my time for money with a W-2.
Yeah, that's the purple book. We call it the Purple Bible around here, right? So it's Rich Dad, Poor Dad has definitely been a staple in our community, right? When it comes to real estate investors or just anybody that's trying to build passive cash flow. And the fact that you already had the right mindset before you even picked up that book, right? You were like, in your 20s, I need to figure out a way to grind and make this money so that I can make sure that I'm covered and I'm good when I can no longer work and all that. So you already had the your goal in place. Like you already knew what that, I guess, financial freedom number was going to be for you. The
Yeah.
challenge now was, how do we get there? So you picked up the book and then you realized, okay, I need to do something to get this passive income so
Yes.
that I can keep making money even when I'm battling illness at a time. I think that's huge, right? Now, what made you decide that real estate, or let's just say multifamily real estate, what made you decide that was the way to go to build this passive income?
I love that. Impact is big to me. As you can imagine, I've been the benefactor of many people, even strangers, that have decided to support me, pour into me, fund research, all of those things. So having a part of my journey and my own income have positive impact was big for me. Although today I'm not exclusively in multifamily real estate, I really always wanted that to be, and did always want that to be part of my real estate journey, because providing safe, secure, affordable housing where people can focus on their goals and not be concerned about just basic living conditions, that's hugely impactful. And I love that about what we do. So that was how I chose that space.
Yeah, fantastic. So what else? So you're not exclusive to just multifamily. What else do you invest in?
So we're doing triple net lease industrial as well. Really love what's going on in that space. Not the same impact per se, because of course we're working with corporations, but I'm a big diversification lady. So whether that's within real estate, geographically, asset types, that's big for me. So we're enjoying that as well.
Yeah, fantastic. So what kind of triple net lease or industrial buildings are you looking at? Are you doing like strip malls? Are you doing warehouses, anything like that? Like, what are you doing with that?
Yeah, so it's flex industrial is actually what we have under contract right now. And
Okay.
it's so we've got some office and then a lot of warehousing / manufacturing in Kansas City, Missouri.
All right, fantastic. Was this like a recent transition, like out of multifamily to that, or are you still trying to do both? Or are you just going to focus on the industrial side now?
Yeah, parallel tracks. Multifamily, obviously, we've got the demographics in the United States as well as the supply of housing. So I'm very bullish from that point, and obviously value in terms of that we can provide to our residents. But we're also in a space in multifamily where the debt market's a little wild. The Feds really set us for a loop, and something, again, diversification, I think is healthy for all of us, my portfolio included. And industrial, at least the deal we have, cash flows from day one. Value add is just repaving the parking lot and making sure we have reserves for the chiller system. We're not waiting for residents to vacate and doing heavy renovations like that we do in multifamily. So I think with most things, there are pluses and minuses to both. I want to have my hands in both so I can continue to grow my portfolio.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the multifamily side, because I know you have right now just around 60 million in assets under management, right?
Yep.
Just small numbers, right? But okay, so with that, like, how are you choosing where to invest in for multifamily? Like, how did you identify these emerging markets?
Market research is my jam. I think some would argue I spend a little too much time on it, but I absolutely love it. It's like a treasure hunt. So looking for where are jobs growing? What's a business friendly city, state, environment there? Where are people migrating to, right? Talk about the great migration we've experienced in the United States over the past 2 to 3 years during COVID, and supply constraints. Where is there a surplus? Where is there maybe a deficit of housing where we may be able to come in and serve people in that way? So we really look at a whole bunch of data points to identify these emerging markets, and it's served us and our investors incredibly well.
Yeah, that's a very good point too. Like with everything that happened with the pandemic, with that everybody moving from the cities out to the suburbs or just other areas besides being just in the city. I remember I wrote like a whole blog post about that very early on in 2020, and it just got even not worse, but like it got even bigger since then. And
Yes.
just so many people just transitioning and moving out. Between that and like this great resignation that we've had with people quitting their W-2s to go and freelance and do their own thing, or go full time into real estate and other ways of just building income on their own instead of having to rely on a W-2. It's really changing our economy on a much larger scale than I think we really talk about. And I feel like some of those impacts, we're not going to feel them until a couple of years from now when we realize that, hey, there isn't somebody at the grocery store to slice the deli meats. It's just, that's like where we're heading. And
Yes.
I think it's important to just pay attention to those things. But anyway, I'm going to get off my little tangent there. Now, when you got into multifamily real estate, so I know the market research, that is like your jam, right? That is what you love to do. And that's fantastic. Now, did you start off as a general partner, or did you get into your first multifamily deal as a limited partner? Like what did that look like for you?
Yes. So at the very beginning, I wanted to start off with small multis, quad, triplex, that type of thing. Living in Los Angeles, I figured out very quickly that even if I could afford it, that was not something I wanted to do. It's not the most business friendly or landlord friendly environment. And then after a few kind of attempts to do a few things in Phoenix, if you're in LA, what's the next best market? A few hours east, Phoenix. With some failures there as well, my health getting in the way. Yes, I decided to passively invest because I realized that what my investors tell me now, I had a full-time job. I had other things I wanted to do, but I knew I could learn also while investing. So if my long-term vision was to become a general partner and run these deals on my own, it's great to read, it's great to get a mentor, but it's really powerful to have your money go to work for you and then interact with the folks that are managing the deal to learn from them, the good, bad, and the ugly. So that served me extremely well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's where my head's at right now with what I'm doing because when I started investing in multifamily, I was still full-time active duty in the Navy. And I felt to be a general partner, I would be doing a disservice if I was trying to do that while I was still full-time in the Navy because my commitment was to the Navy, right?
Yeah.
And so I started investing passively in real estate syndications and learning as much about it as I could, right?
Yes.
And I was fortunate enough to get with a couple really good groups and that taught me a lot. It wasn't just, hey, yeah, invest with us. Like, here's the numbers. This is what it's going to look like. They showed me how to get deep down in the weeds. Like, hey, here's how we did our market research. This is what we went and looked for. This is why we think this is a good value add because of A, B, C, and D that's happening in the city and all that stuff. And I was like, oh, wow, they really got deep into the weeds for me. And it was really great to be able to understand all that and learn it hands-on versus just, oh, yeah, I took this course and now I know everything about multifamily real estate. It was being able to really be in it with these guys and understand what they were doing. I think that really helped me get a better understanding of almost all facets of multifamily. I still don't know what I don't know.
Exactly.
And that's the way it is for everybody, right? You don't know what you don't know, but be willing to learn. Be willing to learn as you go. And I think that's super important. And I'm really thankful to have this conversation with you today because it's making me realize, hey, because I was thinking to myself, should I go as an LP or should I try to just right away grab some partners and start my own thing? And I feel a little bit more confident that I made the right choice, right? To go in as a limited partner first, get the runnings of how this works, and then eventually do something on my own. So yes, thank you for that. That's great. Now, actually, this next question is selfish, right? Because now I want to ask you, what is it like? Like, how do you do that transition from being a limited partner into being a general partner and going out and getting your own deals? Attention, fellow real estate investors. I know you're tired of ineffective marketing strategies that leave your lead generation feeling like a bust. Well, I've got a great solution for you. I've teamed up with Ballpoint Marketing to bring you a fresh approach to growing your business. With their handwritten direct mail marketing, your business will stand out from the crowd. Their amazing writing machines will craft personalized messages for each of your potential clients, making a lasting impression and increasing the likelihood of them responding to your message. They even make pen smudge marks to add to the authenticity. And for those of you that are driving for dollars, one of their most popular offers are handwritten door hangers. Placed directly on the front door, these door hangers show a potential seller how serious you are. With Ballpoint Marketing, you can trust their marketing strategy will be both effective and unique, just like your real estate business. Use my coupon code ABGJOE for an exclusive discount. Don't miss out on this opportunity to grow your real estate business and generate leads. Click the link in my bio for more. Hey everyone, Mike with Average Joe Finances. The Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference, aka RubeCon, is on for 2023. It'll be May 4th through the 6th in Phoenix, Arizona at the Sheraton downtown. I'll be speaking again this year and I want to see you there. This year I'm doing 2 speaking events, one about growing your investor network through podcasting and the other is about investing while in the military. We have some great speakers lined up, so you don't want to miss this conference. Visit averagejoefinances.com/RubeCon, REWBCON, or the link in the notes below and use promo code Mike for discounted tickets. See you there.
Let's get back to today's episode.
Yes. So my secret was I ended up being co-GPs with the people I was limited partnering investing with. It was really a matter of trying to add value without expectation of having anything in return. When I was ready, not to get too in the weeds of this, but as you can imagine, I was a bit isolated during COVID. I had all the time in the world because my lungs were healthy, but I needed to still protect them. The resource I had to be able to provide was time. And so I would just consistently show up in the inbox and phone calls to this GP team of, hey, I've got time. How can I help? What can I take off your plate? And developing that relationship of, oh, Amy does what she says she's going to do. Oh, she's prompt. Oh, she's trustworthy. And that relationship grew over several years to the point where when I was hunting for deals and looking for people that I could bring the deal to co-sponsor with, I was already a known entity, a trusted entity, a partner that they knew would be valuable. And it really made that transition pretty easy. So I know that's not everybody's story and not everyone has a ton of time or skills, but it was very intentional because we all know how important relationships and trust are in this industry.
Yeah, relationships, trust, and then the value that you brought to them. And the value that you brought to them was the time that you could commit to helping them with research or whatever it was that you were able to do with that time. So that's fantastic. And that's not something you hear too much about, right? Like when you're like, oh, what do you bring to the table?
Yep.
Time, right? Time. Everybody needs more time, right? How do you get more time? So that's a really strong, I guess, asset in your toolbox for you to use and going out there and becoming a partner with these other GPs as you did these co-sponsorings. Okay, great. Now you made that transition, right? So you transitioned from being a limited partner to now going out and hunting down and finding your own deals. Now you're doing triple net leases on industrial properties. So that's fantastic. Yeah. You've run like the full gamut here on the commercial side. So that's really awesome. Now, there's a reason why you got into real estate, right? And I was perusing your website a little bit, right? And so I know one of the things was to make sure that you can take care of yourself and your family with what you had going on physically, right? Yeah. But also you have this thing that you called the 5 freedoms, right? So can we talk about that a little bit? I know it was financial, geographic, time, association, and purpose. So what are these 5 freedoms to you?
I think they're incredibly important. And I think our culture, I don't know, maybe you'll agree, maybe the listeners will agree. Our culture doesn't necessarily talk about this as much as we're filtered through this school system of go to school, get a job that's safe and secure and trade most of your waking hours to earn that money. And I think there's something so valuable in being able to control your time, whether it's going on vacation or your hobbies, or maybe getting back and volunteering and making an impact on the world. Yeah, being around people doing what you want, when you want, where you want, for however long you want to have the impact you want on the world. So it's not to say that you can't do that with a W-2, but I think a lot of us are focused on money and generating money, especially through real estate, which I do too. That is definitely a focus, but it is simply a vehicle to be able to have more agency over our lives. And I think real estate and the cash flow that comes from it is so powerful in that respect. I love talking about it. I think it inspires a lot of people, myself included, to be able to design the lives that we really love and want to live.
Yeah, absolutely love that because people ask me, because I go in, I'm a guest on other podcasts as well. And a lot of times people ask me, okay, what is it about financial freedom that's important to you? That's a very popular question I get, or what is financial freedom to you? And to me, my answer is always time freedom. It's the financial freedom gives me the freedom to be free. That's a lot of freeze, but that's probably the most important thing to me is that the value that it gives me isn't the money. It's I don't have to worry about the money. I don't have to worry about how I'm going to pay my bills. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff because I've got the passive income that covers that. Now I can worry about the things that are more important to me, like my family, right? My daughters grow up, being with them as they grow. And I recently retired from the Navy, and I'm finding now that I've been home the past 2 months, and it's been quite an experience to actually be here with them every day. I'm not sure that they're a fan of it yet because they have a teenager and a tween, both daughters. Oh. So they're not necessarily a fan of it yet, but we're getting there. Yeah. But for me, it's just it's just a whole different experience being with them during the day while I would have been at work because we homeschool our kids as well. So it's just been really fun. And it's one of the things that I got because I wouldn't be able to do this on my own with just my pension from the Navy. So investing in real estate and focusing on what I was doing on my way out the door was huge in allowing me this time freedom to pursue the things that I wanted to pursue, right? So I think that's huge. And that's why I really like the fact that you discuss these 5 freedoms, right? So I think that anybody that's coming to you and looking to invest with you as a limited partner or just in general, they understand that you're the real deal, right? Like you're here to bring this freedom to help other people. And I think that's commendable for sure.
I appreciate that. I love hearing about what you've been able to do with your time freedom. I think most people would give anything to be able to spend more time with their children. They grow fast, right? And
Yeah, they
those
certainly
moments,
do.
yeah. And in your particular situation, fathers are so important to young daughters. So maybe they're not seeing the value or the appreciation right now. Those of us that are women remember how wild it is to be that age, but without a doubt, you're making a lifelong impact. That's irreplaceable.
I appreciate that. There's certain things that I'm happy about. I told them tomorrow I'm taking them to the water park. They're happy about that. But where I wouldn't be able to do this if I was
Right.
still focused on my 9 to 5 and really just bearing down on that. So this is one of those things that I get to enjoy some of the fruits of that extra labor that I was doing, right? So anyway, enough about that. I just want to say that freedom is huge. It's important. And I'm really glad that's one of those things that you discuss as well. Okay. Cool. Amy, I would love to transition this into something that we call the final round. It's where I'm going to ask you the same 4 questions that I ask everybody that comes on the show. They're hitting questions, but I think we already know how Amy responds and reacts under pressure and in tough situations. So if you're ready to go, we'll get that party started.
Yes, sir. Let's go.
All right, let's do it. Amy, first question. What is the biggest mistake you've ever made in real estate investing?
Not getting with the team soon enough. Really, I'm an independent person. I think that I've got a decent amount of self-confidence, but I just didn't fully appreciate how much of a team sport this industry is. I think a lot of us may see companies or just one person talking about their syndication or what they do. And I think our industry doesn't do a good enough job, in my humble opinion, talking all the different partners and people that go into all of this to make it look simple enough for just one person to do. Once I finally figured out I could go further, faster with a team, I was off to the races. And gosh, I wish I appreciated that years and years ago.
Yeah, that's really a great point. And I just want to ask you, like, when did you figure that out? Did you happen to go to a meetup or a conference?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yes, got really entrenched in hearing people's success stories. Success leaves clues, as they say, and really diving deep into what exactly does it take to be successful. And that's exactly right. Oh, okay. Now I get it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because that's one of the big things that I like to focus on too when I coach people as well is the teamwork aspect, right? The building that network and building relationships is so key to being successful as a real estate investor. Yeah, so I think that's fantastic. And I appreciate your transparency. That is the biggest mistake that you made because a lot of people don't want to admit to certain things. But sometimes trying to be a lone wolf in real estate, sure, you can go a certain distance, you can only go so far. You're going to get capped out.
Agree completely. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Amy. All right. So the next question kind of ties into this. They all tie into each other except for the last one. But anyway, the next one is, what is something that you've learned that you wish you knew when you first started?
Yeah, I really didn't appreciate on the acquisition side how much, to your point, of being awarded a deal, and I say that word very strategically, isn't necessarily about the terms of the deal, the terms of maybe the LOI or the contract that you're looking to get into, but is about relationships. People want to know and trust the person that they're doing business with. And I didn't fully appreciate that maybe unlike the single family market, maybe not recently, but historically, where it's how much money can you give me? What does that all look like? Your relationship with the broker and then in translation with the seller is really based on how much you know them and the relationship that you've built and the trust that you've built out. If they don't have surety of closing, if they think you're going to be a pain to work with, not everyone thinks that getting top dollar for something is worth all of that. They will sacrifice price or terms to be able to do business with people that they like and they feel comfortable around. I think I was a bit naive, not understanding that, but now understanding that it's changed everything.
All right, fantastic. So were you saying that you were annoying them and attacking them, saying, hey, I'm the person? No, I'm just kidding. No, but
I think I was a bit more transactional.
Sure.
I'm out in Los Angeles trying to buy a deal in Tennessee during COVID. I wasn't flying out and I just thought, hey, they're busy. Like, why do I want to call them? I can be a chatty Cathy. Do I want to call and get to know them on a personal level? I just figured I'm not going to bother them. This is what I have to offer. I'll be a bit more transactional. As it turns out, my default and leaning into truly who I am about caring about people and getting to know folks is actually beneficial in a lot of scenarios. So I lean into that now.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm very much the same way. I'm like a social butterfly.
Yeah.
I got to get out there and talk to people. I absolutely love it. Very much an extrovert. And I can tell you are too. So I'm sure that when you started going out to meetups, you were probably just like all over the place, which is fantastic. All right, great. Let's get into the next question, Amy. And that is, do you have any tips or tricks that you would recommend to someone that is just getting started out today?
Yes. We talked about this at the very beginning of the podcast, I think, and it is you really become the people that you surround yourself with. We are social animals by default. To fit into the group, we subconsciously start morphing into people that we're around. We really do. Our thoughts, our actions, all of those things, our beliefs really follow the people that we're around. So to your point, meetups, getting mentors, even just people within the space, find your tribe, pick them based on your values, based on your goals. And yeah, don't be afraid to be around people that are more successful than you, or that maybe you're a bit intimidated because you don't quite know or feel like you have the knowledge or experience. You belong in the room. You belong in groups of people that are successful. So I really think really picking who you're around can change your life completely.
Yeah, 100%. It's a very popular saying, and I've said it on this podcast several times, but if you surround yourself with 5 millionaires, you're bound to be the 6th millionaire, right? It's what you hear all the time. Just surround yourself with like-minded people that have similar goals and aspirations you're going to follow them and be successful. Sure, you can go out there and you can see people that have been doing this for 20, 30 years and really look up to them and say, that's who I want to be. But if you're getting yourself involved with people that maybe started a year or two before you, they're like your peers, right? And you're like, man, I want to do what they did. I want to keep just following in their footsteps. And you can eventually be at the same level as them, or even surpass them, depending on how aggressive you go into it.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things I tell people as well. Like when you go to these meetups and you're networking and you're meeting these individuals, it's great to have a mentor that's been doing this for 20 years, right? But don't go to them and asking them for advice on how to invest in the market today. Because when they first started, it was way different 20 years ago than what the person that's next to you that started a year ago or 2 years ago, they could probably give you more actionable advice to help you move along there. So that's awesome.
Brilliant. I love
All
that.
right. All right. Hey, Amy, I have one more question for the final round.
Yeah.
And this one is different than the other ones. It's more of an opinion piece, but I think it's very helpful and useful for a listener. Do you have a favorite business, investing, or real estate related book or podcast, or both?
Okay, I'm hoping this qualifies. It is an investing related book, I think. I'm a big macroeconomics and monetary history nerd. So there is a book called The Creature from Jekyll Island by G. Edward Griffin. It is a long read, but it is really worth it because I think the more all of us understand the greater financial market, global economy, as I think Winston Churchill said, the further you look into the past, the more into the future you can see. And I think it's a really powerful book that's informative and isn't necessarily talked about enough. So I hope that qualifies.
It does, because this is actually the second time somebody has mentioned that book on this podcast. I can't remember who the first person was. If I go through my notes, I could probably find out. But yeah, this is the second time I've heard that book mentioned. Yes, it definitely qualifies. I have not read it, no. But now that I've heard it for the second time, it's going to get added to my list.
Awesome.
I don't know how far back on the list it's going to go because you said it's a very long book. I try not to read like books that are too long. When it comes to like fiction stuff, I was reading Game of Thrones and I actually had to stop on the third book because it was A Song of Ice and Fire. It was way too long. I can't read 1,000 pages in one book. It's ridiculous. Yeah. But yes, anything that is going to help me, self-help, or help me with understanding economics a little bit better, that is something that's important to me. So that's a longer book that I would probably bite the bullet and say, okay, I'll read that. Yeah, I'm adding that one to the list.
Good. It'll be in your top 5 of any book you've ever read in your life. Guarantee
Really?
it. Come back. I'll tell you, to the listeners as well. I guarantee it. It's going to change everything.
Maybe I'll have to move it up higher on the list then.
No pressure.
Sooner than later. Yeah, no pressure. No pressure. Okay, awesome. All right, Amy, I just wanted to ask you, so that's it for the final round. Was there anything else that you wanted to cover today? I think we touched on everything, and I'm really excited about getting this episode out there.
Appreciate it. No, I think we covered it all. I really appreciate it. You're a great interviewer.
Awesome. Oh, thank you so much. Now, I do have one more question for you, though. So I did fib there because this one is the most important question of all.
Yes.
And this is going to be for my listeners mostly because they're sitting here listening to this conversation saying, wow, Amy has truly overcome and beaten the odds in many facets of her life. We've learned so much just from this initial conversation, but we want to learn more about Amy and what she does, or we want to learn more about, Sylvis Capital and all of that. So where can people find that information about you, your company, what you're doing? Do you have a website you can share with us, social media, anything like that?
Yes, both. Thank you so much. Sylviscapital.com is where you can find me. I know it's a little bit of a different spelling last name, but I'm pretty positive Mike will put that in the show notes. And then I'm also extremely active on LinkedIn. If you're not on LinkedIn, there's a lot of value there that folks like myself and other people in the industry love to post and just provide information that can be informative to you on your journey. So definitely send me a connection request. I'd love to interact with people and help any way I can.
All right, fantastic. Amy, thank you so much. And yes, I will have all those links in the show notes to make it easy for everybody that's listening. So you can either click or copy and paste away. Just don't do it while you're driving. All right. So Amy, thank you so much. This was truly a fantastic interview. I had a great time talking with you.
Likewise. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you so much.
Absolutely. And hey, to my listeners, thank you so much for joining me and our special guest, Amy Sylvis, on the Average Joe Finances podcast. Go leave us a 5-star review and tell us what you liked about today's episode with Amy. Aloha from Hawaii, and have a great rest of your day.
Bye.
Thank you for making it to the end of this episode. Greatly appreciate you being here with me today on the Average Joe Finances podcast. If you haven't done so yet, make this the episode that you go leave us a 5-star rating or subscribe to our YouTube channel. The Average Joe Finances podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Have an outstanding day.
Thanks for listening to the Average Joe Finances Podcast, your source for beating debt, saving money, and investing. Learn more at averagejoefinances.com.